Assalamualaikum everyone. Hope all is well and we are connecting. My internet has been so bad. I'm sorry I couldn't come live yesterday, but we're here today. So let's hope this works. Oh, just give me a second. There we are. I'm just connecting. Just give me a second. Oh,
It's working.
yay!
Hello, my friend.
Hi, Hamish. How are you?
I am good, thank you. It's a little bit rickety today. My battery's dead, so you're plugged in. So my phone is clamped, but we've got it. I am
All
present.
right. All right. How was your day?
It's springtime in England. I went for a 2-hour walk in the sun, and there's people sitting in the park and kids playing and people having picnics. So, yeah, when you have a day like that, it's perfect. Just how I
Ah,
like it. Yeah.
lucky you. Two
Yeah.
hours walk. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I needed it. It was a long morning.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
happiness. We're
Hmm.
all set for today's topic. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of trepidation.
Why
Um,
so?
well, I've been thinking about it and just thinking about marriage, relationships,
Yeah.
love, and what happens when things go wrong. And not a list of sacrifices, but what hurt? What hurt? What didn't work? What was painful and all that kind of stuff. So I've just been ticking boxes and thinking about just being married and not being married and all that kind of stuff. So just sort of thinking about what we're going to talk about and just see where it goes. But I've been thinking on it a lot today. Yeah.
Um, has the thinking been heavy, or was it reflective, or what?
It was both. A lot of
Yeah.
joy, a lot of joy, a lot of sadness, a lot of
Yeah.
reflection, a lot of guilt, but all sorts of things. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure we will dive in. We might be being a little bit cryptic. I mean, if there's people on, are we being cryptic at the moment? Yes or
We
no?
are. We are. So Hamish,
Mm.
divorce. Uh, let's first. Are you divorced, or have you been through the process?
Yes, I divorced on the 8th of November 2019. That was the day I went to court and did all the paperwork. Yep.
Was it your decision?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, it was my decision, after a catalogue of all sorts of chaos and mayhem and years of not being happy and not communicating, but it was my decision to terminate the relationship. Yep.
Yeah. So
Mm.
Hamish, what led when you look back? What led you to coming to the conclusion that divorce is the only way out or in or whatever that works for you?
Um, well, we're going to open a can of worms here then. I was drinking. I was very unhappy in my relationship. And I didn't know how to communicate to say this wasn't working because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like letting people down. So I didn't like letting people down meant I wouldn't let my God down, let my family down, and let my wife down. But I
Yeah.
was. So I had to realize that was very noble. I don't let people down. How amazing am I? But really, I was letting everybody down and myself. So I was drinking to try and avoid the pain. I was drinking so I couldn't have to have conversations with my wife because I'd be too drunk. And I was just incredibly unhappy, and we'd gone separate ways over our relationship. It had gone separate ways. We had very separate lives. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, we shared a house, we shared a room. It was not a sexually fulfilling relationship at all, which doesn't help. And
Yeah.
it was, yeah, it was just, there was no love, there was no connection, there was disdain and contempt. And those are two emotions that don't come and go. They just sit and rot. They are like
Yeah.
a stagnant pool of water that just gets more and more stinky because I just sat in it. You know, it was just horrible. And I didn't know how to articulate unhappiness. I didn't know how to communicate. It wasn't working. So I drank. So I pretended everything was all right, and I lied and said we were fine. Money was fine. This was fine. That was fine. She
Yeah.
had an expensive lifestyle with horses, which was expensive. So her salary went on that. I worked for myself, so there were good months and not so good months. And so it was, yeah, it was just a mess. And I didn't communicate, didn't talk, and didn't resolve things.
Hamish, I'm just curious to understand. You've shared so much, but one thing that's coming up for me is you said I drank away, I drank away. I'm trying to understand, was drinking a coping mechanism for you because you were so unhappy?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're hungry, you can't think. Okay, you've been in that
Yeah.
place where you're so hungry you can't think, and you have to just to go and get food. But if you have eaten too much, you've got no energy, and you're not going to be communicative. You're not going to get work done because you're satiated. So alcohol, same thing. I just took the edge off, took the intelligence away, took the communication away, and it was just like, he's too drunk to talk. We'll do it in the morning. So it was an avoidant mechanism to not look at what wasn't working, not have those conversations, not get upset about not having sex again, not getting upset about anything because I was drunk. And it was a way of coping to not have to deal with how much I was hurting, how much I was crying myself to sleep and things like that. Yeah, it was a way to distance myself from what needed to be done, which is have an honest adult conversation.
Yeah. So, Hamish, when you look back, do you think that you didn't have the tools uh, to communicate, or was it just your avoidant behavior, or mix
Both.
of both?
To- Totally both. I didn't have the tools. My no, I didn't. I didn't have the tools because there was shame. Because there was, you know, I had married. I mean, I loved my wife to begin with. Obviously, you know, it was fabulous. We were best friends. We were lovers. It was a great relationship, and you
Yeah.
know that's how it began. So when everything starts falling apart, however much, I mean, we didn't argue. We avoided confrontation. So there was no communication around, I don't like that, I don't like that. On the one or two occasions we did, there were absolute explosions. Um, yeah, you don't need the details. And so it was, it was just a mess. It was just a mess. So it was avoid the conversations and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, Hamish, I'm for somebody in this space, it does kind of like, even for me hearing it, it's kind of like scary. The person you were in love, you were friends, everything was perfect, you get
Mm,
married, and then it falls, and then the narrative becomes, and I know that, and you and I both know this in this space, in our healed versions, that is the wounded parts of ourselves when we say, oh, marriage is just a failed institute, or blah blah, whatever, relationships
mm,
don't work. And uh when we look back, or when you look back, actually, and
Mm.
reflect, everything was okay because of what? Did you, if you look back now, do you think they were red flags? And at that time, you didn't have the awareness, so they didn't seem like red flags? Or was it the evident part that you're saying that, we just avoided having the uncomfortable conversations?
We avoided the uncomfortable conversations. There were red flags. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you meet somebody and you don't see the red flags. You just you wear tinted specs. You don't see red. I mean, that's what happens in relationships to begin with. You wear blue specs or green specs, so they goes black. You can't see that they're bright red and glaring. Um, there were red flags. Yes, it's quite interesting having this conversation without. I don't want to say who she is. I don't want to
Yeah.
portion any more blame than is absolutely necessary. And there's a lot of blame, and it is absolutely necessary. Let's be
It's
honest.
all
It,
right.
it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
So there were red flags. There were all sorts of things that went wrong.
Yeah.
There was not communication from either side. Both of us did not like having confrontations, so we'd avoid them. And so I would get pissed off, and I was so I'd go out, I'd go for a walk, I would bottle it all up, and then unbottle it, drink it, piss it out, all that kind of thing, and repeat. And it just was because I didn't know how to deal with it. Now, why not? I didn't have the tools, and again,
Yeah.
there's so much shame, and yeah, you know, it,
And we should keep on saying the word, there was so much shame. Explain
mm,
to me from a man's perspective. Like, I'm trying to understand. What do you mean when you say there was so much shame?
I should have fixed it. Should have fixed it. Should have got it right. Shouldn't have had to happen. Shoulda. So many shoulds. I should have been able to manage. I should have been able to communicate. This is the man's role. He's expected to do all these things, and I was doing that rather than actually listening to my heart, my feelings, and what I wanted. And yeah, I didn't know how to say we need to chat because I was embarrassed. It's just as simple as that. It's
Yeah.
as, it's as simple and as completely fucked up as that. I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't want to make life difficult, and I didn't want to do the very thing I ended up doing. But I did want to. I absolutely wanted to. I wanted a divorce. I wanted it all over, and it was just that lack of being able to reconcile those two things honestly.
Yeah, I hear you. But, I'm trying to understand when you said, I should have. For you being a man and generally for men, don't you think that's a lot of pressure in the marriage?
Welcome to being a man. Yes, there is tons of pressure. Yeah, there is tons of pressure
So when
from the man, from his family,
yeah,
from society, from
yeah,
expectations that he puts on himself.
why? Conditioned that way, or is it their ego, or is it their that they have to have that in front of the world, you have to carry themselves a certain way,
I
like
think I think all of the above. I think
yeah,
that is the perception that we think we have to carry
yeah,
because that is the norm. And yet the truth is we don't. No one needs to. If you're not unhappy, have that conversation. Have that conversation. What's the worst going to happen if you're going to have a conversation with your partner when the relationship is icky? The worst thing is going to happen is you speed up the process of a divorce, or you work it out. You try.
yeah,
You see if you can reconcile. So both ways, neither of you are in a long, extended stretch of what the hell is going on. I don't know. I don't like. I don't trust. You make a decision to not waste each other's energy, love, resources, capacity to be humans, time, everything. And I just strung it all out because I didn't know how to do it. And that's unfortunate, but that's what I did. Yeah. I mean, it's not acceptable, but that's what happened. That's the story.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. You know, I'm listening to you, and for me, what's coming up is like, it's interesting, that I've never thought like men would carry the shame or the pressure. I could see the pressure because of their ego, and they have to. We can't fail, we just can't
Mm.
fail,
Yeah.
right? So I can understand and relate to that. But when
Mm.
you say the shame and the pressure, that kind of pressure that we have to have it together, really resonates because I mean, I can only speak being in my culture, right? It's like, being a woman. I felt the same when I got married.
Mm.
You got to make it work, regardless of what you feel. It is what it is now. So
Mm.
make it work.
Yeah.
And then again, didn't have the tools, didn't have the understanding, and just went along with it. And this is how marriages are. This is how everybody's marriage is. Look around, it's the same. And I just dragged it. And then again, we didn't have the tools and understanding, right?
Mm.
And then the other thing that comes up for me is if we just rewind and go right back at red flags, right? That's really interesting because, and then you can speak as well. For me, the red flags were there when we were courting, right? It wasn't a love marriage. We were introduced by families and we were given the permission to, meet and see if we want to marry. So I did decide to marry. I wasn't forced, right? But the red flags were he showing himself who he was. Like, there's
Mm.
not like, oh, he love for me and I was blinded and I went in, like that. uh, he showed you who he was,
Mm.
absolutely transparently, right? But when I look back at myself, my mindset was this. It is like this. Men are like that. They are whatever they are, right?
Mhm.
And then this mindset that love is going to be enough. My love will be enough. My care will be enough, and things will get better once we are married. I didn't have the language to understand what are boundaries. What is that? Like, I didn't know
Mm.
that. To begin with, what is self-respect for a woman in a marriage? You have
Mm.
no self-respect. That's my understanding. Now, whether it was right or wrong, or where I learned it, this is a totally different topic. But my understanding was, you zip your mouth, he's always right, and you just have to be submissive, and
Mm.
that's how it works, right? So, uh, it's not about blame. For me, it's more about, I've always been, I'm grateful that I had that kind of reflection where I was able to, kind of say, like,
Mm.
it's your fault. You did this to me. Yes, absolutely. But then there was this moment where I stopped and I took it inward and said, why are you doing this to yourself, Manish? Why
Mm.
did you do this to yourself?
Yep.
And then, then you start understanding, and, that's
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
growth comes and awareness.
Yep.
So,
Totally.
for you, when you say absolutely, the red flags were there in the beginning, how much did you understand them at that point that they're red flags, or were you just like, this is how it is?
That is an interesting question, because I'm just thinking that back. Same kind of thing, that's who she is. She loves horses. She loves this. She's
Yeah.
fearfully independent. I knew I wouldn't be first in her priorities because the horses were. And I had no problem with everything that she explained or indicated. Were those red flags? I'm not even sure whether those were. She had a temper. I had a temper.
Yeah.
She couldn't communicate. I couldn't communicate. Um, they weren't. Oh, she'll change. It absolutely wasn't. It wasn't that. I didn't expect things like that. I wasn't naive. I mean, I wasn't 20. I was in my mid 30s when I got married. Yes.
Okay.
Um, so I was very aware of who and how she was. And part of that was her charm. Part of that was she was independent. She didn't need me to be walking one step in front of her, taking all the rain and all the storm, because she was perfectly capable of going headfirst into the storms.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a red flag.
Yeah.
So I mean, the problem with things like red flag, and I'm going through a huge process of changing, looking at language, and a red flag to you is not necessarily a red flag to me. Is not necessarily a red flag to the
Yeah.
next person. So it's the problem with this language is, it's without getting really meta, it can be dangerous. Oh,
How
that's a
so?
red flag. Well, somebody said, your a girlfriend says to you, oh, that's a red flag because he does that. You said, well, no, I actually love him for that. That's part of his charm. I don't mind the fact that he leaves his socks on the, on the sofa when we go to bed at night. That's a red
Yeah.
flag. No, it's not. It's sweet. It's not a red flag. To somebody else, it's the worst red flag. So it's a difficult one. I think it comes down to communication, and we didn't have that.
So
Whether
you would
whether
say
we
not the red flag, you would just say it was lack of communication.
Yeah, and not dealing with problems, not having conflict resolution is the most important thing anybody can learn, and you have to. You have to say that's not acceptable. Don't shout at me. Don't hit me. Don't talk to me like that. All those kind of things. Those are fairly obvious ones, but
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Please don't do that. I'm tired. That communication is, it's not confrontational. It's not even conflict, but it's actually just saying what I need. And I didn't do that. And she didn't do that. So you're on eggshells, wondering what person says when they mean that. Are they being sarcastic? Are they being unkind? Are they mean? Are they whatever? And it's like second guess, second guess, second guess. I walked on eggshells every day of my married life. I was expecting to be dumped every day of my married life. And I don't know why that went through my system, but that's what it was. I was expecting that every day, which
Okay.
doesn't make for a very healthy relationship either.
I like how you put it. I do personally believe. I mean, obviously, then it's the choice of words, red flags.
Mm,
But then I could say, and obviously we can only speak for ourselves. We can't speak for the other person.
mm,
Um, but like I'm saying, like my ex-husband showed me who he was.
mm,
I speak like this. I will treat you like that. And me remaining silent for whatever my reasons were, this is how it is, or whatever the narrative
mm,
was my lack of understanding. And if I had communicated, like you're saying, if in that quoting time I said, hey, listen, don't talk to me like that. Don't use those words with me. I don't like it. Don't raise your voice, whatever, right? And now the next thing comes in my mind is if I did communicate and they still carried on, then obviously right now we have the language tool, you just walk away. But
mm,
then I'm just trying to be real that I go back in my 20s, in my late 20s, and I think, okay, let's say I had the language and I did communicate, which I did, but let's say I did. I don't like the way you talk to me. Don't talk to me like that. You
mm,
know, don't raise your voice. And the person said, whatever, you're a wife, be a wife, you don't talk like that to your fiance or husband to be and stuff like that. Now, then, in that space, the conditioning gets activated. Because then when I shut the phone, I'm like, oh, I can't do that. He's my husband. How will I go tell my mom? She needs to respect your husband, right? He's your husband. He's right. So
mm,
then what's the point of communicating? Because nobody's going to really give me the support. So it is what it is. Suck it up, you know.
mm, mm.
So then for me in this space, even if I had the language to communicate, which I
Yep.
didn't, it
Mm,
would still come to the fact my conditioning would come forward.
mm, yeah.
And if I did confront that, I don't like the way he talks to me, then it would be you being too picky. You're being too picky. You're not going to find a perfect guy, you know. You
Mm,
can see who he is, you know. Now you know who he is. Now it will be easier for you to manage him when you
mm.
get married. You know his temperament. So, you know, again, it just comes back to the fact about societal conditioning.
It
The-
does, yes, for both of
Yeah,
us. Yeah, for
yeah,
both of us, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So
And
then it
then,
just becomes more complicated and complex, Danish. It's not just I'll communicate and everything will be right. I communicate and you say something, or vice versa. I say something. I don't know women what women say, oh, don't you love me, or whatever. You know, I don't know how they keep you in the trap of staying with them, but whatever they say, what they say,
mm,
and then you fall for that. Is that what takes over in those moments? Is conditioning, the role models. When you look at marriages, the
mm,
institute of marriage, what have we what kind of examples we've set, right?
yeah. I think the the bigger picture. I mean, first that word, the institute of
Yeah.
marriage. You know, you send people who are sick to institutions, mental institutions, rehabs at institutions. Marriage is an institution. I mean, go figure. Look at the language. Um, yeah.
Oh, oh yeah.
Um,
There we go.
however, and I think this is where the conditioning's wrong. You know, the conditioning is no, it's not wrong. The conditioning is purely is. You can either accept it and suffer,
Embrace it
struggle,
or just
yeah, suffer, struggle, or you go, I'm not doing it anymore, like you did. You put your foot down, you left, like I did. I put my foot down, I left. And then we suffer the stigma. I mean,
yeah.
okay, divorce is acceptable in the 21st century. It's unfortunately it's far too common, which is tragic. But there's the sovereignty. There's the you will not hit me again. There is you will not talk to me. You talk to me, raise your mouth, your voice at me unnecessarily, treat me badly. I'm leaving. Why should I stay? Why should I receive that abuse from you? That's the sovereignty. That is saying to society, to expectations, and say, I value myself. And that's what we all should be doing. We should all be
Yeah.
saying, it's not okay to be treated badly. When you've got religious rules, it's more difficult.
There are no religious rules. Religion actually sets you free, you
Hmm.
know. But it's more. My understanding is not. It's been fascinating my whole journey, because for me, and
Mm.
it's interesting. I'll share it with you. When I left my husband, the guilt of leaving him, the guilt was so bad. I'm a horrible wife. I'm a horrible mom, because I just separated the kids from the dad. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe the first night at my
Mm.
sister's home. And I needed some kind of validation that I was okay.
Mm.
Otherwise I was going crazy because I've
Yeah.
done something terrible, right? And then for me, I had to reach out and get a religious scholar on board and ask him that,
Hmm.
this is what I've done and I feel horrible. And then Hamish, I went on for 2 hours telling my whole uh, life story to him, till he had to cut me down. And he just said, if you wanted to know the religious perspective, all you needed to do was call me and say, I'm unhappy. And I would have said, walked away. That's what your faith said. And for a second, I paused and I said, oh my God, he's deviating me from faith. Look at
Hmm.
the conditioning, He's
Yeah.
deviating me from
Hmm.
faith, because faith condemns divorce. God
Hmm.
doesn't like divorce. And this happens, and God frowns when we think about divorce, and all of that was coming up. And I said, he's not right. In my head, I was thinking he's
Hmm.
not right.
Hmm.
And then
Not what you were
uh,
taught. Yeah.
yeah, and then he
Mm.
said, okay, where are you from? Where are you from? And I said, I'm from Pakistan, right? And then he goes like, oh, well, you basically, you practice cultural faith, not the real faith. So what serves people over there, whoever gets more power, then the patriarchy comes in place, right? And Hamish, I'm being really honest. When I hung up, I said to myself, this guy is crazy. He
Mm.
shouldn't be a scholar. He's going to ruin lives because people are going to go like this and divorce. It didn't click, Hamish. It didn't
Mm.
click to me. It's really sad
Mm.
because it was that simple. So for me, it's just how deeply ingrained the patriarchy is that for me, going to a scholar, getting the answer, yet
Mm.
it was like, no, you're wrong.
You're wrong because
You're
man is
wrong.
right. Yeah.
You're trying to be a liberal because you
Mm.
live, and he lives in UK, and because you live in the West, so you have
Yeah.
that influence. So you're just saying that
Mm.
this it can't be that easy.
Yeah.
It just can't be that. It took me years and years of relearning and
Mm.
unlearning and getting into the books and reading again and again and understanding. God has not condemned you. Walk away, girl. Walk
Mm.
away.
Mm.
You know? And
Wow.
same for men.
Mm. Yeah. I think what I find the biggest problem is the institute of religion. Let's do that. Is the dogma, the human aspect of religion. You know, the Bible was written by men. It is Jesus's word. You know, your script has been compiled from original stories. I'm using the
Yeah.
words carefully because I'm not familiar enough with the terminology.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, until recently, there was always a man between me and the altar, between me and God. There was always a man who would take my prayers, do whatever it was. There was never the human and God. There was always a man in the middle, the priest, the
Right,
vicar, the
right.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I don't think that's how God works. You know, as far as I'm concerned, God, spirit, whatever you want to call that entity, I don't even, you know, it's not, is it doesn't need somebody else to talk to through them. You know, it's your relationship
Yes.
with. So going back to the scholar, you know, he told you the language of the law, the mysticism, whatever. Again, I'm not in the right with the language. He told you what the book says. However, you were taught by men, and marriage is a really good way of keeping tabs of children. So if you know if you had five different lovers, five different children, there's kids going everywhere. There's no connection. Whose do they belong to? How does the state pay for this or that? Bind everyone together in a legally binding thing. You've got more control over people. That's the man aspect of my interpretation of the man aspect of religion, of marriage. It's a bit
Yeah.
cynical,
Mhm.
but it does make life easier for government and
Yeah, I mean,
control.
yeah, I mean, this conversation is so going off track, but
Mhm.
but for me, it took me a while, obviously, to wrap my head around it. And then
Mm.
there are so many things around faith that I learned later on. Even, for I can't speak in behalf of men, right? But being a woman, the reason sometimes we also stay in unhappy marriages is the financial support, right?
Mm.
So if I'm weak and I don't have finances, I don't have a degree, or I don't have the confidence because I was never taught that to go out and work
Mm.
and earn, then it's be oppressed, because
Mm.
you don't really believe it that you can do something better, right? And Hamish, I never divorced. I was separated for 5 long years. So it was so hard to
Mm.
to even go there because it was like I have to first have financial freedom. If I don't have that, how will I cater for the kids, right?
Mm.
And that kept me stuck in that for how long it did. But it was then again fate comes in front of me and fate says, and when I read the book, it said that your kids are not yours. You know, you think you possess them, but they are sent to you by God.
Mm-hmm.
So God will take care of them. You don't need to worry the how.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he will provide for them, and then uh, He promises in our book that I will. So it's a promise of God that I will take care of your kids. I will provide for them.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, interesting. Now God is promising, so then there's no worry. Then I just go file for divorce. God will take care. They're taken care of right now. There will be another way. And then there came like, you're just being foolish. God's giving you a brain. Use
Mm-hmm.
your brain.
Yeah.
So be the wise one. Yes. Where is that provision coming from? Right? So okay, then I should not have blind faith, because having blind faith is being stupid. Use your brain. So I don't have an act plan in place. I don't have the income. How will I provide? I'll just sit home and say, "Oh, God will provide." No, I was working, but somehow God would provide. And to each their own story and everything, their journey and however they've learned. God did come through for me, for my kids.
Mm.
And for me, I didn't have to say anything, but when it happened, I was like, oh my God, now what will these people say if I confront them? Like, really, you said that I'm being stupid, I'm being this, I'm being that, but did not look how God came through for me. The kids are taken care of. So it's fascinating, right? Because for me, if I look at the religious point, uh, my religion sets me free.
Mm.
It completely sets me free. But when I look at the cultural part, it imprisons me, it enslaves me, it oppresses me, it
Mm-hmm.
condemns me as a woman.
Yeah.
How
Mm-hmm.
dare you?
Mm-hmm.
How dare you even think like that? No, zip,
Mm-hmm.
quiet. Now you're a good girl.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
It's incredibly sad, isn't it? It is changing.
Yeah.
It is changing. It's taking time, a
Yeah.
long time. Maybe your kids will have it easier. I don't know. They'll have their own issues to deal with. But yeah, it's what we've got. It's what we've got, and I think as you've wisely said, that God sets you free. God does all of this. That's His promise. That is the promise made. So that's certainly something to make it easier. And then, as you said, it's the culture is conditioning it. The culture is making it difficult. The culture condemns and embarrasses and shames, and that's tragic.
It is.
But you can,
It is.
but you can stand up for it. You're standing up for it. This platform here. You are telling people that it's put yourself first. Don't be the doormat. It is difficult.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
sacrifices, but you know stories of women who've gone missing when relationships fall apart. They just suddenly aren't here anymore. Um, that's not a nicer option than divorce and the struggles and everything else. So you, I can't say you have to be sovereign and make the choice. It's choices, but you've got to put yourself first. What's important? There
Yeah.
is change,
Mhm.
but it is hard. It is hard, and right back to the beginning, you married that man because you loved him. You made it work. I married my wife because I loved her. We made it work. Things don't always work, and it's at least now we have that capacity to leave. 2 or 3
Yeah.
generations ago, it was incredibly frowned on, if not impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Hamish, from a man's perspective, right? I've spoken so much from my perspective, but from a man's perspective,
Mm,
you did share the wiring, and you have to have it together, and we cannot fall apart. It's a failure if the marriage doesn't work. So I have to, regardless of how it was damaging you, uh, where you went was all as a coping mechanism instead of, dealing with it, because God forbid if you dealt with it at that time, it would it,
Mm.
it would condemn you in your head or in actual in your real life. Explain to me, what do men go through, like emotionally? Do they feel? I mean, I know in your case the kids are not involved, but just being a single person. Well, do men really go through the stages of grief, of the breakup, and do they really reflect and ponder on these things? You're looking at me like, what is she?
No, no, no. I'm trying not to jump in and interrupt.
Yeah,
Um, what I want to say first, all those things, the shoulds and the beating myself up, that's conditioning. You
yeah,
had your conditioning that you discussed. That was my conditioning, my societal conditioning. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I was yeah. Now, do we grieve? Do we do that? Yes, absolutely. There is still grief. There's no shame. I've dealt with that. Um,
Yeah.
regret. I learned something. Well, in fact, we talked about it the other week about the communicating, sitting down and having a conversation with your spouse. I wish I knew that. Whether it would have made any difference, I don't know.
Yeah,
That
obviously. Yeah.
that is my only one regret. But again, because I didn't know that, that's kind of feeling sorry for myself. But yes, my experience, I went through the grief. I'm thinking of friends of mine who've divorced.
Do all
Have-
men feel the sorry, I'm interrupting you. The like the emotion, right? I'm trying to understand the emotions men really feel. Do you think all men do feel shame when they're becoming a divorcee?
Can I let you into a secret? I don't think many women know this. Men do have emotions.
They do.
We
Ooh.
do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. I mean, I had four until I got to rehab. Um, yeah, love,
Yeah.
hate, fear, and shame. Um,
Wow.
there might have been another one. There might have been.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was disdain, wasn't there, and contempt. That's six. Okay, I'm being slightly flippant. Yes, we do have emotions. Yes, we do feel these things, and it's incredibly hard. I'm just trying to. I've got not many divorced friends, so I'm quite lucky. But yes, there is a tremendous amount of emotion. Yeah, there is a lot of guilt. It's like, she was my best friend. We were lovers.
Mm,
We wanted to live the rest of our life. What went wrong? What did I do
mm,
wrong? That's usually the story. What did I do wrong? Even if it was her fault, what did I do wrong? What could I have done to make it? Because I'm a man, I'm the supplier. I should have, that going back to that. So yes, we go through those emotions. There is the shame. There is the guilt. There is the regret. There is so much beating ourselves up.
mm.
Um, and let's say it's a foul marriage and everything goes, it has fallen apart. The relationship is toxic. I'm thinking of a guy who was drugged by his wife for years before they split up, um, and gaslit and this, that, and the other. It works both ways,
It
sadly.
does. Yeah, it
Um,
does.
it really does. And
Yeah.
there is still, then there is, why didn't I leave earlier? Why did I stay so flipping long? Why did I
Mm,
stay in this mess? Why did I let myself? This was my story. I could have left five
yeah.
years earlier. I should have done,
Mm,
um, but I didn't. So there is that. I wasted 5 years of my life being really unhappy. Again, this goes back to have that communication, darling. I don't love you anymore. I don't love you either. Let's go separate ways. Rather than
yeah.
5 years of fighting and hating
More
and disdain,
resentment and
and
yeah.
wasting life. Talk to each other.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
mediation. It's if it's not working, sort it out. I think that's the only message from. That's the most important message. Is if it's not working, it's going to hurt. It's going to be shit. There's kids involved. Put them first. Try not to hate each other because of egos and all that pride and stuff like that. But sort it out. You know.
Hamish, there is so much of like belief system, and I'm trying to act like I understand men, and I know where they're coming from, and I know they
Mm,
feel emotions and all that. But I'm trying to act as a lay woman would,
mm,
so that the women here would understand. And why I'm choosing to do that is because I was with a few friends today, right?
mm,
And it's really frustrating, because okay, I'll speak about myself. I believed when I walked out of my marriage, men don't have emotions. They only have it for themselves if they do have the capacity to have any.
mhm,
Um, and just my culture, right? So I was in US and I saw men show emotions, show love, show care, show affection. And it was like, oh, this happens?
mm,
They can do that. Oh, and then, that thing about the dads would come and they're like, oh, we're going to go home and cook, right? And I was like, excuse me, stop. What are you talking about? And like, yeah, today is my cooking day, so I'm gonna go home. So I said,
mhm,
you're gonna take the child, you're gonna take care of the child when you go home, and your wife is working, and she's gonna come and she's gonna relax. And obviously they would look at me like, what's wrong with it? This is like the normal thing here. But for me, Hamish, I'm being
mm,
real. We know that, we see that in movies and all that, but for me, experiencing that was like, I want to marry these men. Like, wow. Like, where do you get those?
mm,
That kind of thing. So it was knowing something and then actually experiencing it are two very different things. So we knew
mm,
how the West works. It's 50
mm,
50 men and women. There are no gender roles. They try to do everything together, blah, blah. But when I saw it, it was mind-boggling for me,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
So for me, when I was hurt and I was wounded and my marriage fell apart, the guilt that uh, I did something wrong, right? And then it was all men in Pakistan, because of patriarchal culture, are narcissists. Stamp, seal, end. And I
Mhm,
lived by for years till I didn't heal, you
mm,
know.
mm.
And there are incredibly amazing men in my country who
Yeah.
do show emotions, who
Mm,
do take care of the kids, who do cook and do everything, right? But it took a lot for me to work on myself and not project what I marriage in one relationship to dump it all over my society. Now it bleeds on every man. And no, they didn't deserve that, because if he's
mm,
a uh, where does he abuse her? Where? Like in the bedroom, or what is he doing? Because he can't. I could not, Hamish, digest that men could be nice in my society. And now I sit with women today, and my friend was sharing that I went out with her friend circle, and they were just whining about their husbands, right? And then she said like, oh, men are like that. So men do cheat. Of what's meaning that? They are like, and we have to suck it up and live through it. And she was like, I wish you were there because you would have said some 2 cents that would put some sense in that. But then, and then, for this mindset, men cheat and men are wired like that and they do this. Educate us, Hamish, educate
mm,
us, because this is the mindset, women do operate in it is a belief, like
mm.
hardwired belief. Men will cheat. What's me? So if he cheats, let him.
Who's he cheating
Just,
with? Who's he cheating with?
a woman. Another
Ah,
woman.
yeah. Okay. So who's this woman? So who's
Well,
who's this woman he's cheating with? Is it? How do the women then describe that woman? How do the women
uh,
describe their husbands? Do they
mm,
love their husbands as much as their husbands love them? Is there any love in a relationship?
it's
I'm not being provocative. I'm being genuinely,
no, 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 no,
because
not at
this is
all.
this is really important. If there is contempt both ways, then there is a massive paradigm shift needed, and it does sound like there is a
when
lot of love in
when
some
I
relationships.
when I've sat with women and who've said to me directly that man is cheating and I don't know what to do and stuff like that. Uh, there have been women who have said, "No, my husband is so nice. He's the perfect guy. She did
Mm,
black magic on him, so she's the problem." So this is one side that I've heard, and it is very, very, very limited experience
mm,
and exposure, right?
mm,
Not talking about the masses, right? And I was like, okay. And I've tried to bring that woman in, but why is she only the problem? Maybe your husband lied to her and said, "I'm not married, I'm divorced, I'm separated." That's a
yeah.
possibility, right? And she says, "No, he was never like, he was madly in love with me. She did black magic. She's the problem." So now the women blame the women. I've met women who think their husbands are the purest men on this earth, who only
Mm,
love them, and was black magic, and she's evil, and she did that, and why women do that, right? And then there is the larger picture, women who say, they just say, "Why you surprised?" Like that. They cheat. They are going to cheat. And then I'm like, same thing like you said. I said, "But who do they cheat with? Are they cheating
mm,
with another guy
mm,
or what? Woman?" And I was like, then I'm not justifying cheating, neither I'm
mm,
promoting it. But obviously I'm trying to bring into their awareness, if they're cheating and you're staying, what part are you playing in that? So either you accept it that he's cheating, it doesn't bother me because I want to keep the family structure. So it's a conscious decision
mm.
and should bleed on him because you're choosing to stay. He's not pushing you, right? Because that dialogue is not happening, right? And then uh, they are like that. Men cheat. My father was like that. My brother is like that. Men cheat. Men have been cheating since.
Mm.
Like, what's new there? So, I mean, I get really frustrated, and I get tons of feedback like, "Are you naive? Or you really believe men don't cheat?" And I say, yes. I know tons of men never cheated,
Mm.
lived a faithful life, be good to their wives. Their wives were and are happy with them. That's just a small number. So getting back to the point, Hamish, for you, I'm a woman sitting in front of you, and I'm saying, "Hamish, all men are cheaters."
Mhm.
What would you say to me? Like, how would you educate me?
Um, how would I educate? I would want proof. I'd say, okay, prove to me that all men are. Prove to me that all men are. If you can prove the all, then fine. If you cannot prove the all, then that statement is wrong.
No, but
So
I
you
can
got
say
to.
the all. My dad did that. My uncle did that. My grandfather did that. My cousin did that. This is all. This is my community. All of them did that. So then, what you say to me?
I would say that is a rubbish. That is a representation of 10, 20 men. Yeah, that's not all men. That is some.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you think that's convincing for a
it's an
woman?
it's an incredibly emotionally charged, irrational statement to say things like that because it's not true. You know.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Even being a woman,
Mm,
it makes me very uncomfortable. Just
mm,
like when men also have these. I don't know over there if they do, but in our society we have this very clear. I come across men. They say, "Oh, all women are naggies. They're
yes.
naggy.
Yeah.
They don't understand you." It's wrong.
Yeah.
I think stop labeling. Not all women.
No. Exactly.
Some women, maybe majority in our
Yeah.
society, you could say,
Mm, mm,
but saying all women, like you say, it's a
mm,
harsh comment. I didn't like that. I'm not like that. I've
no.
seen women that don't
Mm,
like. They're very supportive. They've supported their husbands throughout.
yeah.
So no. So
Mm,
and for me, Hamish, it's always been. It's not you against me. I need you. You need me.
Totally.
Can we stop slightly?
Yeah.
Can we talk?
We're now getting somewhere. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, can we talk? Okay.
Mm,
And Hamish, I have this belief that all men are cheaters.
mm,
Help me. I don't know. I learned that somewhere down the line, and I'm scared
mm,
you're gonna cheat on me. You're gonna leave me for somebody younger
mm.
or somebody XYZ.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of conversations I want because my feminism and my identity is not threatened
Mm.
by a man. So I don't really need to prove anything by doing XYZ, and the man will see something in me or whatever. So for me, I'm very powerful, yet I agree and I admit I need a man.
Mm.
So let's work it out. Let's understand and dismantle these beliefs and these things that were, you know, fed to me when I was very young and I didn't have the understanding.
That's you've nailed it. Certainly from my way of thinking, we were taught this. We believe this. These sweeping all men are bastards, all women are whores is victim mentality. It's
Mm,
not women in their power. It's not men in their power. It is people in childish archetypes feeling sorry for themselves, upsetting their friends, being generally rubbish, men and women. You know, that whole thing is not, it's not adult behavior, it's not respectful, it's not considerate, it's not truthful. It is just, and I'm not lambasting women. This is everybody who does it. It's just unkind.
selves,
It's
Hamish.
not
It's just
helpful. It's
rude.
not. It's so toxic and so unhelpful. It's not building relationships. It's not communicating. It is just poor me. Somebody did this, so I'm going to make shit for everybody, and it's just not sovereign. It's not empowering yourself at all, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, I've had to work through all of this. I've gone through this. All women are this. Horsey women are this.
Yeah,
You know, therapists are this. I mean, I've got a long list of women I will never date. And this is
yeah,
all purely based on one or two experiences. So it's an absolute fallacy. You know, it's
yeah.
like all men are bastards because he cheated. You know, it's just
Mm,
not true. Um, it's absolutely fine to use that as a marker. So, you know, I won't go out with a divorcee. He's divorced once, so I won't risk it. Fine, nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
That is your choice. Absolutely. There's certain types of women I will not go out with
yeah,
because, in my experience, I've seen this is how things happen. So I won't do that
yeah,
for my sanity
yeah,
and things like that. But it's being sovereign. It's having those conversations, and when you
yeah,
start having those conversations you stop identifying as the victim. You know, you have healthy conversations like you and I are having. We are not saying divorce is wrong. We're not
yeah,
saying don't do it. We are saying what's important to you. We are saying what matters. We are saying if one of your female friends says, you know, all men cheat, is that a really good friend? You know, is what they are saying helpful? Is it really improving your life, or is it making you doubt your husband, your brother, your uncle, who are actually really nice people who've never done things like that, who are proof that all men are liars, all men are cheats is wrong?
Hamish, when you're saying that's really interesting when you said, Mike, like your brother and you. I remember many years ago when I started my podcast, right? And my podcast was bringing in all women of emotional abuse, physical abuse,
Mm,
narcissistic abuse. So I just were bringing women. Like I didn't even look at men, right?
mm,
And obviously, when you go live, it's very raw because we don't like pre-plan and stuff. So I would say these things on live, like, yeah, in my culture, yes, men are narcissistic and it's patriarch. So I would feel passionately and talk about it, right? Because I was hurt in my marriage and
mm,
it was bleeding everywhere, right? And my cousin comes over And he's like, "Oh, I saw your live stream. You're doing an amazing job." And I was like, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he's like, "Why do you label us? Like, you are on this big platform and people globally are looking at you and you are showing them that all of us are like this." And I said, "Oh, but you are. You are. All men in this society are. You like control. Women should submit. If God forbid we speak up, we've provoked men. So like I'm not lying, right?" And he goes like, "So you're basically telling them your father is like that, your brother is like that." And then I said, "Oh, my dad's not like that. My dad is an exception." And it is true. Like my dad is,
Mm.
right? I've never seen my dad being disrespectful towards my mom ever, right?
Mm.
I mean, if I had seen that, maybe I would have lived in that marriage because it would be my normal. But and he was like, "Yeah, okay, well, if just your dad is not like that, you sitting there having a voice are giving that message that your dad is like that." And I was like, "Nah, it doesn't work like that. Don't try to defend men with me, right? Like, no, you need to fix yourselves. You need to stop doing that to us, right?" And it got heated. It got heated because obviously he got defensive. And he's like, "You've got this big platform and all people from all over the world are looking at you. And you're just showing all Pakistani men are like that." And I said,
Mm.
"Instead of being defensive, why don't you just admit that you guys are wrong for once in life and fix your issues, right? And stop hurting us, right?" So, and I'm just being really real with you. Like I've been through that, right? But
Mm.
my thing is, like you said, that friend of mine coming to that point, when she says that all men are X, Y, Z, Hamish, for me, it's easier to see through that lens because she's not happy with her husband, even if he's not cheating, okay? Even if he just looked at another woman and said, "Oh, she's so pretty," right? You know, we women are insecure. Men are insecure for different reasons. Women are insecure. It's okay to be insecure and yet be empowered, right? I could understand that your resentment and your bitterness because you're unhappy
Mm.
bleeds. Your negativity bleeds. Your toxicity bleeds everywhere in every conversation. And
Mm.
then I would meet women and they would be like, if I ever spoke about my experience, like, "Oh, we're really sad you went through that, but my husband is so nice. I'm so blessed." You know? And then there are those women, and that was feedback for me that women who were happy with their men will
Mm.
always give positive feedback.
Yeah.
And women who were not happy with their men for whatever reason, not necessarily that he's cheating,
Mm.
they will always have very fixed beliefs, like myself.
Yeah.
So it's not my job to like go and tell them. It's their job to understand themselves. Just the way I educated myself. You
Mm.
have to
Yeah.
educate yourself because you see, these women teach their daughters that.
That's the problem.
And
Mm.
then their sons learn, for example, my mom says all men are cheaters. I can be a
Yeah.
cheater. I guess it's normal because my mom says it all the time,
Yeah.
lives with my dad, doesn't really hold him accountable for the behavior.
Mm.
So, cool. I think that's what I have to do. And the girl says, "Mama lived through it. I'll live through it too."
Mm.
But nobody thinks like that, Hamish.
No. No. Tragic.
Yeah.
Mm. It's it. It is sad.
Yeah.
It is sad. And going back to your friend, if I was harsh, I probably was. You, she's living it. She's living that, and that is her experience. And it's tragic. It's tragic. Um, that's the observation, and the world gets very small. And when that's what you see, that's what you see. It's just a process. You have to go through it and make sense of it and try and understand that, you know, that is your relationship. It's not, that is not every relationship. It is some, maybe lots, but it's not every relationship. It's just unfortunate. And then, as you said, if mum normalizes it, that means the son thinks it's okay to be the cheater because that's it's hard. You know, you're bringing your kids up the best you can. You're drawing a line in the sand. You're not treating your kids the way your dad treated you. There's certain pieces, absolutely. There's certain things that, you know, you've drawn a line in the sand. No, and you're not teaching them what you got taught. And on it goes. And that's all you can do is just say this. You know, it's not okay to cheat. If you don't love your wife, your girlfriend anymore, have a conversation. If you don't that brave, leave, but don't just cheat and stay there for whatever reason, because that's just not okay. That's just not treating people nicely.
Yeah, and Hamish, my friend said that when that girl said that, all the girls in the circle agreed. And that was more painful for me. Like they
Mm.
all said, yes, we
Mm.
agree. Men are like that. So, and we're all living through it. So we need to suck it up. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to meet them. And obviously, it's not my place. I don't know them. But next time, just gently say that, fine. What role are you playing in that dynamic?
Mm.
Do
Yep.
you ever question that?
Mm.
If you're choosing to stay, and I'm not saying it's an easy decision or condemning a woman who's staying, if she believes truly that that's the best thing for her kids, I would
Mm.
respect that because, you know,
Mm.
everybody comes from their own set of beliefs.
Yep.
But then stop disrespecting him outside because your kids are learning this behavior is okay. And then we're kind of like repeating that cycle. So for me is like when I left my marriage, you know, there was no right choice. Staying was hard, leaving was hard, coming to this society was hard.
Mm.
I chose consciously, I'm going to choose this hard, number one,
Mm.
right? And it came with a heavy price tag, Hamish. But since I'd made that choice, I lived up to it for my kids. Nobody
Yep.
could say in front of me, your kids are from a broken home. When they said that, my kids were like little playing in that room, and in front of them, adults are saying, oh, how you feel good about it. Your kids are going to be called from a broken home. And I would be, excuse me,
Mm.
broken? What's broken? Their arm is broken? Their leg is like, what's broken? Explain to me.
Yep. Mm.
What's broken? And they're like,
Mm.
oh, you know the family structure. And I said, no, it's
Mm.
just changed.
Yep.
Their dad is there, their mom is there. In fact, surprisingly, we are loving our kids more because now we're not worried about our partner. We're
Mm-hmm.
not worried about how unhappy we are and how miserable we are. I can focus on me. And when this is full, I can pour in my kids. I'm not resentful. I'm not bitter.
Mm.
I'm not saying, go away, I don't have time for you because
Mm.
the marriage is draining me, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I said, surprisingly, they're getting love from everybody
Mm.
that they would have if I
Yep.
was living in that toxic marriage.
Mm.
So I don't really understand what is broken. And next time, don't use that in front of my kids. That's a boundary. You want to
Mm.
say that outside,
Yep. Mm.
but not when my kids are here because nothing is broken for them. So, so those kinds of things because I had to walk in knowing that I was walking in
Mm.
a fire
Mm.
and knows what would be thrown at me. But I didn't want my kids, Hamish, to learn that divorce is condemned,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm.
And I hope I've done justice to it in some ways for them. But in any, not even marriage, in any relationship, may it be with
Mm.
your parents, your siblings, your friends, your co-workers, it doesn't serve you if you're not being respected. That's it.
Mm.
I'm not even going further than that.
Mm.
If you're not being respected, it doesn't serve
Mm. No. I want to go back to what you said. You know, you made that choice to separate and look after the kids.
you. Yeah.
They're not from exactly. It wasn't broken. You'd taken the energy out of fighting. Not let's say you. There's the scenario you got. You've got mum and dad. They separate. They work it out. So the kids come first. which it should be.
Yeah.
Mum and dad, stop that bickering, that fighting, that all that noise, that wasted energy. As you said, they can both love the children, and that's all the kids need. Kids are so resilient. They just need that love. They need to know they're safe. And when parents are fighting and using the children as weapons, I mean, the kids just break.
Hamish, it's not even fighting, you know. There was no fight in my
No, no,
house.
I'm not on. My scenario is not yours. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
in general. No, you guys were different. I appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But you know, the sad part is it's because this is the scenario that we talk about, that damage
mm,
case. But there are scenarios where nobody's fighting.
mm,
But you know, like you said, you were living your life, she was living your life,
mm,
right? Nobody's fighting, for example. Nobody's confronting.
yeah.
And the kids are growing up in that atmosphere. Again, what are you teaching them? Is something many people, I've met so many friends who say, oh, we don't fight. We don't. We've just accepted that, you know, we can't make it work. So we're just
Mm,
living with each other for the sake of the kids. It's
mm.
very, very respectful. We have it together. So we're roommates or whatever you want to call it. And
Brilliant.
I'm like,
Yeah. Mm,
I'm like, is it really working for your kids?
mm,
What, because then the emotion of love and affection is not there. It's just cordial. You're just tolerating each other. You're just showing that we're getting together. We're just doing it. It kids are smarter, way smarter than we are, and read energy way quicker than we ever will, because they're pure. So they're
mhm.
intuitively very good at reading energies.
Do you
So
not
what?
think that that is a better situation than having parents fighting? Do you not think that it's better if the parents are both giving the kids love rather than showing love to each other, to the
I
parents?
no, I don't think. I mean, obviously, the fighting is way horrible for the kids. But when
Mm,
you're showing that you cannot show your emotions, we lived separate lives.
mm,
Uh, I've met kids who said that to me, and obviously they're teens, not very young.
mm.
And they say, we don't understand why our parents are together. There's no love, there's nothing. Are they saying for us? Why? Like they still take the blame. The kids still take the blame.
Yes, well,
It's
they yeah, yeah.
and they're like, why don't they just fight? And I'm like, so for me, I learned through the kids,
Mm. Yeah,
maybe
okay.
showing an
Yeah.
emotion.
Mm.
Well, I'm not
So,
saying fighting, but showing the emotion, like I'm frustrated
mm,
or this is not working or whatever, makes them understand that, you know, they're fighting or they're not getting along or there's miscommunication. But where there is silence, it's killing the kids because they're more Hamish when they talk. They're confused. They're like, I
yeah.
can't pinpoint what the problem is, but
Hmm.
it's not normal.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not
Well,
normal.
then the parents should separate.
Easier
Question.
said than done.
Question. Because they have anyway, haven't they? They're roommates. They're housemates. So housemates. Then they should separate. Yeah. I know couples where the children have said, "I wish my parents had separated rather than
Yeah,
just fight or just share a house." Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay.
Juliana. Hiya. Children can feel more than the words. Not
Words, not.
absolutely.
Oh yes, that's what I was
Mm,
saying. You know,
mm,
and like you said, I thought that you know that is the best thing, right? That you don't fight because when I look back, there were no fights. We were not fighting. I was so bloody scared. I
mm,
dared not say a word. So there were no screaming and fighting and yelling.
mm,
But it damaged my daughter so much at so many levels, right?
mm,
And I don't know when if they
mm,
were screaming and fighting and me throwing things and him throwing things, what the impact would have been, because I
mm.
didn't live through that. I'm sure it would have been horrible. So for in my understanding also, when you're faking it for the sake of the kids know it before you.
Yep.
You think that, you know, you the kids will never know, right?
Mm,
The kids know. I mean, I know when we were kids, but my parents would close their room door and fight. We knew in our bedrooms that they thought we were sleeping, but we heard
Mm,
it. The next day, the energies, the moods did give us feedback that,
mm,
something is off. But
mm.
anyway, Hamish, we should wind this up. I
We
think
should do,
that,
yeah.
yeah,
Mm,
we, I think I just learned a little bit about the man side, but it was obviously, it was very informative. We did touch on so many things,
mm.
and I guess that was amazing. Um, Before we wind up and say bye byes, what would you want to say to the men who
Well,
are
there's a question.
happy?
There's a question there for you because that is something that you can answer. I can't because I haven't got the
If the
kids.
kids start feeling that there is something wrong in this kid. Oh, I
Two.
think my daughter knew at 5 or 6 that something was wrong. And for my son also, the same age. I mean, I had separated, um, but he understood before me even ever having that dialogue with him that, me and your dad are separated. He just came to me one day, I think he was 4.5, maybe, not even 5, that you and dad don't live together. Why?
Oh, God.
Because I never had that
Oh.
conversation with him. So I think my personal understanding as a mom and as a therapist and as just being in this space, kids are highly intuitive because they've not gone through trauma, they've not gone through life, learned through this process. They're more sharper. Their intuition is more sharper. So I hope that does answer your question. I guess 5 would be a good age to be like our kids are getting understanding
I'd have
what's
thought so.
going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hamish.
Mm.
Okay, my light's gone, so we'll just wind this up. Hamish, one last message for the men out there. What would you want to say to them? The ones who are going through or struggling through a marriage but just cannot walk out through. I don't know whether it's the emotional shame or fear. What would you want to say to them?
Try and talk to your partner. Try and talk to them. If you can't talk to them, talk to a friend. If you haven't got a friend, if there are channels or places you can talk to, start that. There's mediation. There's all sorts of ways where you can have those conversations. It's not shameful to do marriage counselling.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think people should have months of marriage counselling before they get married.
Yes.
Absolutely essential.
And
But no,
before
this
they
thing,
even divorce.
my heart will make it work. Both sides. No, yeah, I think that's really, really important. So try and talk.
Yeah.
If it's really icky anyway, and it's not working, unfortunately, tempers and emotions get in the way, and it's really, really hard. So it's just crap. But it is communication, and unfortunately, most people don't know how to communicate because it's scary. Not
Yeah.
about big emotional things. Yeah.
And I think for
Mm,
people who are in marriages before they
mm,
even, I mean, if they decided to divorce, still, I would say, do the counseling, see if it can still be worked through, maybe with a
mm,
with a professional, and
mm.
if not, then you can see what works for you. Somebody asked me a question. I cannot answer that for you. I think uh, you could answer that for yourself. You would be making the right decision in that space. Anyway, Hamish, my light
Mm.
is gone. So before I lose all of this, we will wind up. Thank you so much for your time. Thank
It
you,
was a
everybody.
it was a good conversation. Thank you. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. No. Well, you enjoy. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch on you soon.
We will chat soon. Yeah. Big hugs. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.